You know, when you have a difficult conversation with someone and you speak a deep truth and you can tell they're uncomfortable, you can tell that they're upset, they're angry, they're mad, what do? Can you sit with the discomfort? Can you allow them to be uncomfortable? Or do you rush in and try to fix it, make it better, so they're not uncomfortable, so that you don't have to feel the tension? In this episode of the Soul Sovereignty and Sexuality Podcast with myself, Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Divine Feminine Activator, I want to talk about discomfort. Because in order to transform an old pattern, in order to transform your relationships, in order to transform into the truth of who you are and let go of old identities, you have to become comfortable with discomfort. I see this a lot. I've experienced this myself a lot. And as I'm going through another one of my own shifts and transformations, releasing old into the new, I think we're collectively in this place. I am noticing so clearly how the ego mind wants to reach for the familiar, for the comfortable, for the known. And I haven't personally experienced or witnessed anyone go through a powerful transformation. And transformation is like my middle name. Without the discomfort of not being able to reach for that thing that is known and familiar. So how do we respond to that is the question. How do you choose consciously to navigate the unfamiliar, to sit with the in-between? You're not quite in the new, you're not out of the old, and you can feel the pull of the old, but you want the new. And you can't have both. Because in order to experience that new relationship dynamic, personal transformation, whatever that is, you've got to release the old. So going back to the original example, say you find yourself in the difficult conversation. You've said the difficult truth. The other person responds with anger. Perhaps your old pattern is to rush in. Oh no, never mind. It's actually okay with me what you did. Take back what I said. I didn't mean it. Let's get along again. Right? I mean, clearly those aren't the words you're going to use, but it's that energy of forget what I said that made this thing uncomfortable. Let's just go back to quote peace. Even though the peace isn't really peace because it means that you're disconnected inside from your truth and disconnecting from the part of you that knows you're worthy of speaking your truth and being heard and having a boundary. So maybe the old pattern is to rush in, make the other person comfortable. What if instead you could find comfort in yourself despite the discomfort around you? So breathe that in. What if you could find comfort in yourself despite the discomfort around you? Because that is part of your divine power. The light language wanted to come through. Doesn't often on the podcast, but sometimes it does. So if you are able to tap into your center, your internal center. Feel and notice the sensations of discomfort inside of you, in your stomach, maybe a little beating in your heart, maybe a feeling of anxiety or a little closure of the throat, whatever those sensations are for you. You moved into your center and you breathed into them. I feel uncomfortable. Acknowledging your experience, but not letting the experience of discomfort dictate your reaction or response to it, because you remain centered in your choice, in your sovereign power, and you recognize that the discomfort is fleeting and not yours to take care of, the other person's feelings, which is a whole different topic, and that you are devoted to speaking your truth no matter the discomfort, or you are devoted to honoring your boundary even if the other person is upset, or whatever that devotion is for you, because that's the key to moving through the in-between, is that you are more devoted to the new, to what you desire, to what you are claiming, than you are to the comfort of the past and familiar pattern. You have to be more devoted to what you desire to experience than you are to the old experience. So then the work that I do with my clients, for example, would be not only of anchoring into the soul truth and the soul desire and the center of self, but also releasing the attachments that you have, conscious or unconscious, to the old. For example, the people-pleasing tendencies, to I have to make everyone around me feel okay so I can feel okay. Or I fear anger because my parents were angry and I felt unsafe. Whatever those things are ruling you subconsciously or consciously that you react to and let basically control you. And I say this with a lot of compassion, but we have to be honest in order to change. Instead of, I'm devoted to shifting out of those old stories into my power. So I'm going to breathe into this, knowing it's temporary, knowing that I'm worthy of this shift that I'm devoted to. And I'm not going to reach outside of me to make it better. I'm going to anchor into the part of me that is eternally okay and safe and in choice, so that I don't need to reach. I can go in instead. This same pattern of reaching is what often results in addictions. Yes, eventually there can be physiological addictions, but they start off with the reaching and then eventually it becomes physiological. It starts off with the reaching for this thing will make me happy. This thing will make me feel comfortable. This thing will make me feel good. This thing, right? And then you become dependent on that thing. And then eventually, depending on the substance, physiologically attached to it. None of that is you being in your power. Because if you need that thing to feel that way, you're not capable of creating that feeling within yourself and being in your conscious choice. That thing is choosing for you. And so if you want that radical level of sovereignty and divine power, it's about looking at the ways you have allowed those external things to choose for you and releasing the attachments and the emotional and energetic, maybe even physical ways that you have relied on them. I've seen this with both clients who I feel uncomfortable, I have a difficult emotion, and so I want to reach for food, or I want to reach for marijuana, or I want to reach for a person, man, or I want to reach for sex, I want to reach for Facebook, whatever that is, Instagram, because it's out of an attempt to avoid what is inside. And while it is also incredibly essential for you to have compassion for those parts of you that want to reach externally, the deeper level of power requires you to hold yourself accountable to your true self, not the small self that wants to reach to avoid what is uncomfortable. Yes, it's a normal human emotion to want to reach, and that doesn't mean that it's your highest and best interest to do so. There's a big difference between I am reaching out to you to spend time with you because I genuinely desire your company, and I'm reaching out from a place of fullness within, compared to I'm reaching out to you to spend time with you because I feel empty inside and I'm experiencing emotions I don't want to feel. So you're going to fill this lack for me that I'm experiencing inside. Personally, I don't want to be invited into the latter, because that's going to ultimately be draining to me if someone is using me to fill a lack inside. There's nothing sovereign about that relationship or that connection. What we want to avoid can be scary, and often that's why it's helpful to have a guide, someone to be with you, someone to sit with you through it. And the only way through the fear is to face it. So the only way through the discomfort is to lean into it and allow it to be there and not try to get rid of it. The only way through the pain is to acknowledge the pain and allow it to course through you. When you turn away from what scares you, you're turning away from your true power to face what scares you and alchemize it and transform it and look at, why am I even afraid of this? What power have I given to this thing or this emotion or this person or this situation? And what are the steps I need to take my power back? And this can be multi-level. This can be deep and rich, fertile ground for you to look at and reveal to yourself those subconscious emotions and beliefs and tendencies. That once you look at them, you can really begin to put out what isn't your truth and anchor more deeply into what is your truth. And come into a sense of freedom, because you're no longer beholden to those old ways of reaching. And I wish I could tell you that when you feel discomfort, there is some soothing balm that could just take the discomfort away like this, but there's not. To pretend that there is would be a lie. And the only way into your true power is to be radically honest with yourself. And so next time you feel uncomfortable or a desire to reach for something external to get rid of that discomfort or the thing that you, quote, don't want to experience. I talked a lot about this in the last episode. So tune into the last episode to go deeper into this. This feels like a little bit of an extrapolation on some of those topics we began to cover. But really check in with yourself. Breathe deeply, get into your body, notice the sensations that you're having. Ask what emotions are underneath and start to sit with what is truly coming up for you so that you can face it, so that you don't turn away from yourself. Because you do have that power, but you have to be devoted to that reclamation more than anything else. I know that is what I require of clients who come to me and want to reclaim their sovereignty and their divine power so they experience true freedom. I require desire and devotion, because you can't experience the profound transformation that I know I hold space for you to experience and create the energetics and allow you to go into your body to shift out of old patterns. If you are not desiring the result, the sovereignty and power and freedom, and if you're not devoted to moving through the moments of having to let go of all of your old identities and ways of reaching and seeing yourself through the eyes of others, because you begin to anchor deeply, deeply, deeply into your own truth. And it's not a path for everyone, because there are a lot of people on this planet who are incredibly unconscious to the fact that they even have a soul, much less the capacity to transform in that way and radically shift their relationships and their lives and their body and their experience of themselves. But if you're listening to this, I know that you do have that capacity, or else you wouldn't even be drawn to this podcast. And so that creates a responsibility for you. Not the kind of responsibility that is a burden on your shoulders, but the kind of responsibility that is joyful, because you have the capacity to transform your life and this planet through your own reclamation. Because this is about your ascension. This is about your soul coming home to you. This is about you remembering the deep truth of your being. Sending you so much love on your path to sovereignty. Jessica Bacham.